Lakshmi Kaul, an alum of IIM Bangalore and founder director KK Academy. Your heart, I think, lies in academia, from learning to unlearning to making others learn. Tell us about your journey.
So Raj, that's very interesting that you said it that way, because that's how life has evolved. Very true. And I think a very big credit should go to my very wonderful childhood. And the fact that I'm an only child, so I learned to enjoy time by myself and find things which would make me happy, joyful, and do meaningful things, which I realize a number of those things still stay with me. You know, the memories of one fine afternoon painting all the windows in the room, to, you know, making up a story and enacting it, or I used to love reading. So all those things, I think, went a long way.
And your parents gave you that liberty to do, you know, explore life.
They talk so much about how working parents have to find ways to engage with their children. I thought that the fact that my parents were both working worked in my favor, because I had so much time to myself. So I also never felt lonely, very surprising, because they talk about how lonely only children
are. True.
I wasn't lonely at all. I had so much to keep myself occupied with. So I think that beautiful childhood that I had.
And it was in which city?
I was born and brought up in Delhi.
Okay.
So also very different Delhi from how you see it now. And I think that a large part of my present, you know, activities and how I have engaged with children also comes from my memories of childhood.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm grateful for that. Yeah. And also the fact that I studied in very different kind of school to begin with.
What kind of school it was?
So this was a school run by a German lady called Elizabeth Gauba, and it was called Shiv Niketan.
Interesting.
Yeah, and you know, it was on the first floor of a residential house, and it was just 3 rooms and a terrace.
Oh wow.
And very limited children. I don't have exact memory of how many children, but I can imagine that not more than 30 or 40 children in that entire school. We did not know which class we were studying in.
It was all studying together.
It was all
different age groups.
Yeah, all different age groups studying together, and the rooms were designated as English room, Hindi room, maths room.
So it was more of a subject-wise classroom that you had.
Right.
Beautiful.
And we had no textbooks. We just moved from one room to the other and read stories and, you know, story cards, and we learned from them.
Wow.
So one of the fantastic memories, I almost can't believe it now, was a theatre performance, a drama performance, which was for parents, in which I was Jhansi Ki Rani.
Oh wow.
So maybe because my name Lakshmi,
right.
So maybe that's how it connected. But I was this Jhansi Ki Rani who had to, on 3 consecutive days, perform on stage in front of parents without a script.
Oh wow.
Okay. So the principal, Mrs. Gauba, used to get angry if I repeated the same lines twice in succession.
So she wanted different things, and an impromptu
So
session.
Each day was an impromptu performance.
Right.
So that was a memory of, you know, not how stressful it was, but how exciting it was, because I felt that I could do anything. So that freedom that I think I learned to operate right from that age stays with me now.
Very true. Very
and just to fast forward to the present, just last month we did a little film recording in the school, and we did exactly that.
The same thing. So I think your childhood memories of learning into such kind of a school is what you have imbibed and what you have implemented in your KK Academy that's running right now with 250, 300 beautiful children. How is your school different from the other private schools that's running?
So I think, you know, two major differences. To start with, the kind of resources we have are very limited. So I believe that has always worked to our advantage.
Right.
The moment you have a lot, you get, you sort of have ready-made material to use.
And then there's a problem of choice. You don't know what to do, how to do.
Right. Or else you probably get fixed with how that material is to be used.
True.
Like a textbook.
Right.
So imagine a situation when you do not even have textbooks. Imagine a situation when you do not even have toys which you have bought from the market.
And that's where you explore kind of, the length and breadth and width of your mind.
Absolutely.
Teachers get an opportunity to innovate, to experiment, to try new things.
Right. And even the material which they provide to children is very open-ended.
True.
So that is one. So children experiment a lot more and they discover by doing and observing. And also, I think another very big difference is in terms of the way we look at children, not as everybody needing to be at the same level or having the same kind of responses to every situation, but accepting every individual as being different, and with those differences, what is it that he or she can do to be the best possible version, or some version of that difference.
Very true. I think that's what we are lacking behind in the whole system of education, be it the government or the private, that we are just made to compete with one another.
Yeah.
We are not trying to develop a child. As you said that you were a happy child, you were happy on your own, you didn't need anything, you explored your ways, whether it's painting doors or windows or, scripting or whatever. You could explore yourself. That kind of opportunity is not being given to children these days because there's a ready-made syllabus, there's a time frame, you have to do this, you have to follow this, you have to get certain marks and then go on to the next level. And I think that is the beauty of your school, which is very impressive. Each child is different, each child is unique. You let them experiment, you let them flourish. So again, going back to your childhood days, so this was 10-12 years of education that you had in that school?
Yeah, not so much, up to class 5 when I then went into a very mainstream school in Delhi, modern school, and my experiences there then were very different. Because there I got a lot of opportunities, based on like how I had explored my own interests. I think that's when I went into theatre and into dance and a lot of music and learning the sitar and being on stage. So I think the thrill of being on stage was, that's where the beginning was. And also of leadership, having been chosen as maybe a house captain or, those typical kind of situations.
True.
So again, very mainstream school. Fantastic memories of some wonderful teachers, and fantastic memory of the principal of that time, Mr. M.N. Kapoor, who's unfortunately no more. But the way he led the school, the way he interacted with every student of the school at a very personal level. So that's another thing that I remember, and that's why I'm not very excited about having a huge school where I don't know children, where I'm not able to interact with parents. I think that's an important part of engaging with the child, that you are also engaging with parents.
You want to have a one-to-one relationship with each child and their parents so that it helps in their all-round growth and development.
Absolutely. And also parents are on your side.
True.
They understand what you're trying to do in the school.
I personally believe that any child, if he's scoring well or if he's doing good in life, it's not just his or her effort, it's the parents, the teachers, the entire, it's a teamwork.
Absolutely.
All 3-4 stakeholders are together working towards that one goal, be it their extracurricular or coming first or excelling in any sport. Even if one is behind it, then the whole symmetry is goes haywire.
Right. So because very often parents have a problem with the assessment, for example, the pattern. They say, why don't you have ranks, or something which is standardized. So we don't want to have ranks because even in our report card we do not have like who came first and who came second and last.
Very good.
Because the child who comes last is never going to feel that he can ever come first.
True.
So even without saying anything, you've already demoralized somebody.
True.
And maybe the last 5. So that's not worth it. The whole idea is for everybody to develop. So we would like to give prizes or recognize children or appreciate children who have made an effort, who have maybe been very helpful to others. So, I mean, if people are talking now about 21st century skills, so we're talking about compassion and empathy and problem solving. These things do not appear in a report card, technically, in terms of the marks that you've got. But everybody is now recognizing that this is so important.
These are human values, core values. It has to be part of your system. And I think the first 5 years of education would be based on this. You need to help. I mean, what good is a child with high IQ and very low on EQ?
Very true.
If you can't handle a situation, your 100 percentile is of no good, you know.
Absolutely.
You will succumb to the situation. So that's very important.
Or even self-esteem, you know. So these are things which do not get evaluated in the marks that you get.
Correct.
So when parents come up and say, why don't you have this on your report card? We don't know where our child stands. So we say, you come and see the answer sheet. You come and see what your child is doing in the class. You know, parents are also invited to come and sit in the class if they want to.
Very nice.
So we want to have a transparent kind of an environment where parents feel that they're part of the school.
True.
And that's not really feasible if you don't interact with them, if you keep them at a distance, or if you have a very large school, which then you cannot actually afford.
Very true. I mean, in a class, if you have a class of 40-50 students, then dealing with all this, I mean, it's practically not possible for a teacher to address the issues and concerns of all the students, listen to all the parents. And that's why education has become a business in a way wherein the focus is to get more and more students, more and more fees, deliver the 99 percentile, how many students are scoring. So somewhere we have lost that flavor, lost that importance. But I'm sure leaders like you, for whom academia is very close to heart, is going to be the trend setter for the next generations to follow. So, you know, your schooling was good. What made you prepare for the IIMs? That's the most competitive examination for the country. Like, you know, I feel that going to Harvard is easier than cracking the IITs and IIMs of this country. Even though we don't feature in the top 200 universities of the world, still our exams are more difficult compared to any of the university exams across. So how did that thing came, or, you know, how did you think about taking management as your studies?
So IIM, I think, was not a very hugely thought out step, strangely enough.
Okay.
So after modern school, I went to the international school, which was like a different kind of a global experience. And again, memories of the teachers who taught me there and the processes which they had in the school, I am trying to bring into the school system that we have adopted, or created rather. So from there it was St. Stephen's College, Delhi, and it so happened that all my friends were filling up the form.
Okay.
So it was as silly as that, Raj.
Interesting. So everyone was filling, you also thought, let me fill that out.
Okay, let's see what's the big deal about it. And you would be amazed that, you know, now children take a year off to prepare for the CAT
and 2-3 years of preparation goes for cracking the CAT for the 99 percentile that we talk about.
So I don't remember preparing more than one day.
Oh wow.
Okay.
So that labels you as brilliant in every aspect.
I don't know about that, but it was like not so thought out. It just happened.
It was destined to happen.
It was destined to happen. So then I think IIM was a whole new experience, and what I'm so grateful for in that experience is the friends that I made, and the support that they continue to give me. I mean, it's been 40 years now. So you can calculate my age accordingly, right? But it's been 40 years and we are still so closely connected that, you know, my college sort of passions of mountaineering and theatre and all those, I still have a gang of friends that we go trekking together with, and we have reunions at the drop of a hat, and everybody comes and it's like, you know, we're talking non-stop all night. So those friendships I really cherish. They have also helped in the school, supporting it, and they continue to do so.
The alum network is very strong.
Yeah, my batch, we call the batch of rowdies, by the way.
Oh wow. That doesn't reflect in your personality in any way.
You should see me at the reunion.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a wonderful time at IM, and the professors there, of course, the way they're so well versed in the subjects that they're teaching, and the inspiration that I got from there was something that I really cherish. So,
and I think you passed out with medals or something. You were a gold medalist.
I'm a gold medalist. But yeah, all that aside, for a number of years when I started the school, I wondered what was the relevance of, those 2 years of management.
Because after an IIM and being a gold medalist, foreign companies pick you like this, they keep an eye on all the IIM and the IIT graduates, and an international job or 6-7 figure salary is something people go for, that's the whole idea of going to an IIT IIM, that I'll be into the 6-7 figures of salary, work internationally, or be posted in some exotic foreign location with a multinational brand. But you didn't do any of that. What brought you to Lucknow and to KK Academy?
So one step before that, before starting the school, before moving to Lucknow, that after IIM, actually at that point in time, there was a lot of focus on public sector.
Right.
And a lot of my batchmates, including me, chose to join public sector organizations. So the glamour of, the multinationals hadn't really caught on to that extent at that time. And I think that sort of set the mood for me. Also, the projects that we were assigned to do, there was always a social involvement project that we did in our second year. And I think somewhere it must have sown a seed which sort of took me on to look at the social relevance of whatever I would be doing. So I worked in ITI for a couple of years and moved to Lucknow when, because my son has a hearing deficiency. So we moved to Lucknow and looked for a school for my daughter, who when she turned 3, we weren't really happy with the kind of schools that we saw around. Maybe because both my husband and I have been to wonderful schools ourselves.
True.
So we were not really happy to settle for what we saw. And it was like, why don't we start something of our own? Even then, I would say, Raj, I wasn't looking at myself and thinking of myself as a teacher.
Right.
Definitely not a teacher of 3-year-olds. So it was a struggle to begin with, to think about what I was doing and how I was going to do it in my best possible way. But I think in a year, I was completely hooked. And
I think given the kind of schooling you have had, right from the traditional one to the modern one to the international one to the best institutes in India, you were perfectly fit for this kind of a role, because you have the flavor of all these various kinds of schools and you bring all those best experiences to one platform, which is now infused into, KK Academy.
I didn't realize it then at all, because I didn't think that there was anything great about what the background that I had. I just thought it was what anyone should expect to have.
True.
But now looking back, I think it was such a good thing that happened. Of course, starting the school was not my idea at all. It was my husband who pushed me into it, and practically like the school building was ready when I was not there, kind of a thing.
Right.
Started in my garage, by the way. So yeah, I just got hooked. And we kept increasing one class every year with our entire ground floor of our own house getting converted into school classrooms. And now, of course, after a point, we had our own building, and that's where we are housed.
And now you have classes right from 1 to 10 or 12?
No, we have up to class 7 because we are recognized up to class 8.
Okay.
And I wasn't very keen to go beyond that because I strongly feel that the kind of basic education that you get up to class 7 or 8 really carries you through for the remaining years of your life. Student life. And if there are blips anywhere, if there are loose ends that you leave, up to class 8, it's very difficult to fill those gaps later. It could be, it could be in a positive way that you enjoy a subject because you have, certain kind of experience learning that subject in your early years, or you don't like a subject and you maybe give it up without realizing that maybe you were really good at it and you would enjoy doing it.
True.
So the idea is to build that base and that foundation.
The foundation here has to be good.
Yeah, so that's how it is.
Your school is an inspiration to many institutions in Lucknow. You yourself is a role model to almost all the academicians I have known. They speak so highly of you in all regards, because your school accommodates students from the marginalized community as well. You sponsor their education, whether it's a driver's child or a maid, it doesn't matter. A child is a child and deserves the best education, and since you yourself have got best education in your life from all the best institutions, I would like to know, your experiences have shaped this school, but who has been your guiding force, your role model in life, who's always been there, stood there like a rock solid support and helped you in this journey?
So, two people who've been principals of the schools that I studied in, like about Shiv Niketan, Mrs. Gauba, and again about Modern School, Mr. Kapoor. So these are two people I really, sometimes it's just very helpful to step back in a particular difficult situation and wonder how so-and-so would have dealt with it. And so in that sense, it's been very helpful and very empowering to have had these two people in my life. I also think at a personal level, my father, because now when I think about it, he was really such a strong pillar in my life. He passed on in 2002, which is not so long ago, and I was like an adult with 2 children by that time. But it's only when he passed on that I felt I had grown up.
So from the little girl, you moved on to a woman only after he left.
I refused to grow up before that.
True.
So looking back at how, his the connection and the bond that we shared, the support and the encouragement that he gave me at every stage in whatever decisions I took. I think, again, as a parent, I should, and I ought to really appreciate his, the openness that he had to all my crazy decisions at times, to be sort of so accepting of all the madness in my, college days and everything else. Also, how encouraging he was to participate in everything that I was doing. So, yes, huge role model for me, my father always. And also, in addition to the way he supported my mother. In the 1970s, he chose to take voluntary retirement just so that my mother and all 3 of us as a family could move to Geneva to for me to study at the international school. So he took voluntary retirement from a very senior position in the government for my mother to move.
And your mother was working in
my mother was working in the tourist department.
Okay.
So she was heading the tourist office in Geneva. And imagine doing that in the 70s. It was an intercaste marriage. My mother had very little interest in, the typical housewifely kind of work. Like she did, till the end, she didn't know how to cook. But I don't remember a single day when my father cribbed about it. And he didn't learn to cook himself, but he could do a khichdi maybe. But the fact that it was okay, and the support that he gave to her, I think it was huge.
And that helped all 3 of you to grow beautifully in a family with, all different, like these are all breaking the glass ceiling somewhere, Mother doesn't want to cook, wants an international assignment. Father is ready to give up on his career and, go there, sit there. So breaking that taboo that husbands cannot be at home. So,
he was at home and my mother went to work.
So
that's when I learned how to cook, by the way.
Both of you, I think, started learning to cook and, beautiful. So given the population of our country, we have a lot of children from the marginalized community who cannot afford the private education, Paying a fees of 1 lakh, 2 lakhs annually is something their parents can't. what do we do, and until these kids, I personally believe that, if the 10% or the 20% upper class is getting the best of education, but is still surrounded by the 80% who is not able to read and write properly, we as a society, we cannot grow. In order for us to grow, in order to develop like the other developed nation, education has to be, quality education has to be there for one and all. So what should we do? The new education policy has come. What do you think as an educator, what are the steps we need to take to help these children develop, to learn, to cope up with the lifestyles, the ideas, the thoughts of the children from the upper class?
So one is there's already this huge government school system in place,
right?
But
it's not functioning.
It's not functioning. So one is that it should function better. It exists.
Right.
So why not sort of put in more energy and find ways to help it function better? There must be some blocks which are not enabling teachers there to do their best or whatever. Maybe it may be that they are having to do other things apart from teaching. So let's look at that. That's number one. Because you're already spending a lot of resources going, and it's actually like it's,
and the teachers are well paid now, like 60,000-70,000 salary is a good salary for the government school teachers. I mean, not even private school teachers are getting that much. So government is paying, taxpayers are paying the money, so money is there, infrastructure is there, but still that gap is there, which nobody, I mean, Delhi schools still under the politician is being, some of the schools have really picked up. But Lucknow, if we talk about, we still have to have that role model or that model school which other government schools can implement and come forward.
So maybe, like you very rightly said, the Delhi government schools that have really picked up and got into their act kind of a thing, and they can be made into model schools which others try to duplicate in whatever way they can. So maybe there could be like a centralized body helping this duplication in different parts of the country, right? Because as you rightly said, there already a lot of resources are being pumped into these schools. So there should be an output that you should expect as taxpayers. The other thing is the system of the Right to Education Act, wherein private schools are supposed to take in children from the neighborhood who belong to marginalized communities, is also a great move. But that by itself is not sufficient.
True.
In the sense that these children come in. So you might typically say, for example, get a 6-year-old coming to you who, according to the government, is supposed to go into class 1, but he or she has never been to school before. So where do you even start with such a child? Do you put him in the nursery, or do you make him sit in class 1 where he can't understand what's going on, especially in an English medium school?
True.
So these are things which also need to be sorted out, and we're trying to do that in our own school, because we have a huge number of children now coming through the Right to Education Act. We always did have, as you said earlier, children from the neighborhood who maybe who's a driver's child or a dhobi's child, whom we've always subsidized and tried to empower so that that community and that family can also prosper. But now the number of children coming from such backgrounds is much greater in our school.
True.
So we've also had to devise ways. So I think it's been the next stage in our learning process, because we've had these discrepancies where an older child has never been to school, or in the last 1.5-2 years, some children absolutely dropped out and have suddenly reappeared.
Right.
Now where do you
COVID was exactly 2 years have taken a toll on kids and education, and again the technology part, moving from the traditional schooling to the online system of education. How did you and your teachers and your team coped up with this COVID challenge of education?
So Raj, we really had to struggle, but I think the struggle was all so worthwhile. I don't think teachers ever in the past learned so much about their own capabilities and how much they could do. because life was very predictable up till then. And now suddenly you're thrown into the sea without knowing how to swim.
Very true.
Right? So,
But they did it well. Like, every teacher that I have known, the way they have learned the technology, the way they have been using it, and, adopting to the classroom method as well as the online method, preparing notes, making PowerPoint presentations. So they have done it beautifully.
Absolutely. So it's been a really steep learning curve for all teachers.
Right.
And I think that's a blessing, because once you realize what you're capable of doing, that's sort of something you'll utilize all the time in the future as well.
Right.
So we've also, like never before with online, there are webinars. So in the last 2 years, teachers have been invited to conduct webinars on the kind of ideas that we've generated on how to engage with children online. Then when children started coming back to school, again, we had our own very interesting experiences, which we shared in the form of a webinar with other schools. So all these things have really empowered teachers, which I could not have devised ways of doing otherwise in a natural everyday situation. So what we have done is, for example, built a small system of conducting bridge classes. Children who maybe missed an entire year. How do you put them back into their class they should go into without making them struggle in the middle of all their friends? So they come out, they have a separate dedicated teacher who's helping them in that period, explaining whatever's going on in the regular class.
So that they don't have to miss an year also.
Yeah. Because they're getting older, we don't want to keep them back. That again, affects them in different ways.
True.
And we also have an emphasis on peer teaching now, which is going very well.
Right.
So everybody in the class is sort of divided into groups. And they're teaching each other.
Lovely.
So that is also working well. So similarly, we've sort of had to devise ways to come back into the mainstream. And I think, Raj, the important question which I now see as something which all educators should be thinking about is, what is education really for?
True, very relevant.
Right? So it's not that the child is not able to answer questions from the literature book anymore. Suddenly you realize, like when we were devising the curriculum for a bridge class, the first question was, what is essential for the child to know to go into the next class?
True.
So it completely makes you think in a different way. It's not about an exam that has to be passed.
Very
but
true.
What is it?
You have to be well equipped for the next level, I would say.
And now with online, children have picked up a lot of
they have become street smart, doing the Google, finding answers on the phone and then, putting that on their online assessments in tab. So they've learned all those smart ways to cheat and to do everything.
So the thing is, how to use that. So as a teacher, you have to be one step ahead.
True.
So how do you use that, cunningness that children have developed in a positive way? So open book exam. Give them questions which you can't find on Google answers to.
True.
So, something about how do you feel when this happens?
And I think West has taken this up long time back. For them, it's an open book exam. For them, it's like a take-home exam. You sit at your home, take a week's time, do the entire research, have your encyclopedia open and give the test, no issues. And still, so it's all about reasoning and developing that pattern. And as we are talking about the, education skills, there's something about the mental and the emotional quotient also that needs to be developed. And you being mother of 2 beautiful kids and one of them having a challenge or is gifted with a special ability, share us your experience as to how parents who have children with special skills, what should they do? How should they cope up? Where should they, seek help? What is it that they should do? So share your personal story when you found out that your son had a hearing disability. What did you do? What kind of help was available? How did you manage the entire situation?
To begin with, I think I must have been in denial for a time because it didn't hit me for a while.
Right.
And it was just the challenge of the everyday, the day-to-day logistics of maybe taking him for an audiometry or for some test or to a class for, a speech training class or whatever. And it's only when it hit me that, he couldn't go to a regular school. and could not really interact with other people the same way. I think looking back, the mistake that we made was in expecting him to be mainstream. And as a result, maybe some of the things, the qualities, the skills or the abilities that he might have developed on his, naturally, we missed out on because we couldn't see them. And we couldn't sort of help him develop those.
Right.
So one of the things I would say is that every child is unique, whether the child is specially abled or otherwise.
Right.
And let's work on the pluses that we get in every situation.
True.
Know, just like in the pandemic, you work on the pluses. So similarly with children also, rather than trying to focus on what's missing.
True.
And definitely it's a huge help if you get a chance to interact with other parents who are in a similar situation. I think there is a lot of learning that can be shared. And the first thing, of course, is to accept that this is a situation, let's go with it. Take it as a something that's given and not try to fix it.
True.
I think that's the biggest struggle that parents
I think
face.
a lot of the time, as you're saying, the problem is that we are not ready to accept it. We just think that ये कैसे मेरे साथ हो गया, how can I get such a child? So 90% of the parents are in the denial mode, and then when they lose out on time and when it becomes very evident that this is the problem, then they start going haywire, that what to do, how to do.
So without trying to fix it, let's capitalize on it.
Right.
Look at it in a completely different way is what I would say.
So you taught your son, or how was it?
So for a while he was in a special school, and I think that didn't work out very well. That was not a great experience, maybe because the home environment didn't really match with what the school was expecting. So I think there was a clash there. And then he started getting homeschooled with help from the teachers in our school. So that helped him recover a lot of his self-esteem, which had got really trampled upon earlier. And then he went on to do the National Open School exams and his 10th and 12th. Then he went to college and did his graduation there as well.
Wow.
And now has a job in a bank.
Great. That's a beautiful journey. I mean, people don't think on those lines that you can have a regular job, a regular income, you can be on your own.
And he's married to a lovely girl who is also hearing specially abled, and she's a wonderful artist.
Wow, so beautiful. So that you didn't take it as a taboo or something. So the daughter that you brought in your home was again
She's a lovely girl.
I know, I'm sure. I'm sure. And as you say that she's into painting and also that is one art she has really picked up.
Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful. So wow, you have a wealth of knowledge, I would say, and there's so much to learn from you, and for every age group, be it educators, be it parents, be it anyone can learn so much from you. What is one message that you would like to, give to the youth, to the parents or the parents to be, since you are attached to education? And I personally believe that if we are able to manage the entire education system in a good way, this country will prosper with leaps and bounds. That is the only key to success, only key to development.
Yeah.
So what is your message to the youth, to the educators, to the parents?
So one is that there's no shortcut. I've been running the school for 33 years now.
Wow.
So it's only now that I feel that I've started understanding things in depth, really understanding them rather than just doing them. So there's no shortcut. It takes time. Take your time is one thing that I would say.
Right.
Work hard, and I don't believe in work smart.
True.
Because when you're working smart in a sense that I don't know what people understand by smart, maybe they take it as shortcuts.
Right.
So there are no shortcuts.
And you skip on a lot of things when you're trying to act smart.
Absolutely. And another thing is follow your passion, because the passion may not work out in the expected way straight on, but in the long run, that's the only way you can feel that you never worked a day in your life.
True.
Every day is just so joyful and full of adventure. So I think end of your life, that's probably something you look forward to joy and adventure. So you'll get that if you're following your passion.
True.
And don't take yourself very seriously.
I think don't take life very seriously
Yeah.
in general.
Yes.
So beautiful, Lakshmi. It was lovely talking to you, and thank you for sharing such beautiful insights from your work, from your personal life. I'm sure people watching this would have so much to, take back home and implement. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Raj. Always a pleasure meeting you.
Same here.